Hey guys, what is up? Flying Birdie here, and today I'm going to be conducting a flight from Westchester, KHPN, to LaGuardia, KLGA, in New York. This flight will be completely IFR, as you can see by the conditions. I plugged in the VOR frequency for LaGuardia, which is 113.10, and we're going to be using that to line up to runway 22 on a heading of 225. And I also have the ILS frequency for runway 22 already plugged in on the standby into our VOR, into our navigation system here, to the Garmin 530. So I'm going to go ahead, take off, and then we'll start tracking that VOR. Once we get up in the air, I'll pause the video just to talk through exactly what I'm doing. I'll try to go into it as in depth as possible so you guys understand what's going on. So I'm going to disengage the parking brake and take off here. For this flight, we'll be cruising right around 2,000 feet. That should be enough for what we're trying to do. At about 1,000 feet, I'll engage the autopilot and I'll pause the sim just to talk you guys through what's going to happen. Also going to change my heading bug to the heading that we're flying right now, heading of 340. Almost there to that 1,000 feet altitude. Alright, we're right around there. I'm going to engage the heading hold and the altitude hold. Okay, I went ahead and paused the sim, and before doing that, I lined up our VOR indicator here, which indicates that the VOR is at a heading of 21, or that we need to fly on a heading of 21 to intercept it at a heading of 21. So what that tells us is that it is behind us to the left, so right around there. And what I'm doing right now is visualizing how would I intercept a heading of 225. Right now this is telling me to intercept a heading of 210, but I need to intercept the heading of 225. And since it's behind me to the left, if I keep flying straight, I'm going to intercept the headings to the right, if we're looking down here, of 210. So I'll intercept headings of 20 or 190 and eventually 180, all the way around if I keep flying straight. If I want to intercept a heading of 225, which is right here, I'm going to have to turn around and head back to the direction I was going. I'm going to have to head more or less the opposite direction and backtrack. Because of where HPN was, it's already past the heading of 225. So therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn back to a more extreme heading of 225, somewhere around south. And that's going to put me in a position where I can intercept the 225 heading. So if I keep flying straight, because it's behind me to the left, because it's out here, I'm just going to keep intercepting these. What I need to do is intercept it from the other direction. So I'm going to fly a heading of roughly south. Doesn't have to be exactly that, but that's a decent heading because that's going to put me back to where I was, back behind KHPN, runway 34, more specifically where I took off. So I'm going to unpause the sim. The heading bug is going to go ahead and adjust, and I'm also going to start climbing to 2,000. So I'll do a vertical speed of roughly 500 feet per minute. So again, I'm just backtracking now because of KHPN's location. If I kept flying forward, I'm not going to intercept that heading of 225. It's really important to visualize where exactly this is, right? So again, once we get to south, I'll explain again where the LaGuardia is. So again, you can try to visualize because that's the most important thing when tracking VORs. And again, we're tracking this VOR so I can line up with the runway and lock onto the ILS, lock onto the localizer and glide slope. Okay, We are now on a heading of south, so I'm going to pause the video, or pause the sim, and I'm going to see exactly where this, pause here for a second, exactly where this VOR is. So it's on a heading of 2-1. So now this works, right? Because now it's saying that it's off to our right. LaGuardia is off to our right. And if we keep flying forward, again, we're going to intercept radios that are to our right and 225, not too far away. So we can keep flying this heading, and soon enough, we're going to intercept it. So because it's off to our right, radio 210 is right here, and 215 should be right around here. So we're going to keep flying this way, diagonally towards 225. And once we're at 225, we'll turn onto it. So now we can set this to 225. As soon as the center line lines up, we're going to turn onto it. Might be a second here. Now I could cheat and just look at the map here or use GPS, but we're not going to do that. I'm fully using my instruments. We're about 18.5 nautical miles, so once we're lined up here, and once this line is more or less lined up, I'll cut the video until we're ready to pick up the ILS. So right now I'll show you guys how this is turning. Again, it's no more 210, now it's a little bit to the right of that, so like 215. So again, now instead of 210 being here, it's right here, and almost to 225, which is roughly here. This is how I'm visualizing. This is how you should really do it. This visualization is so important during this. I'm going to keep flying this until I get to 225. It will take a second because the Cessna isn't the fastest plane. And I am climbing here, and we can actually level off now because we're at around 2,000. For the short flight, that's a good altitude to hold at, and we're going to get some extra speed here, so this should quicken up the process, but I'll cut the video here so you guys don't have to wait during this process. Alright guys, we are now approaching that heading, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is turn to the heading of 225, which we're looking to intercept, because this VOR indicator here is telling me that I am almost lined up with that. Alright, now we are more or less aligned with LaGuardia at a heading of 225, which is the runway heading. So now all we need to do is wait a little bit and make sure that we stay on this heading, correct for any winds or anything of that sort. So I'll bring you guys back. We're going to pick up the ILS. Alright guys, so I'm roughly at about 10 nautical miles away from LaGuardia. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the ILS frequency. And there you go. It's activated. And we're going to hit the approach button. We're actually going to disengage the autopilot real quick. Hit nav, approach, and hit altitude twice to activate the glide slope. And now we are tracking the localizer and the glide slope here. So you're going to see the aircraft begin to change. Change course there to line up with the runway. It's making the minor adjustment. This center line is the localizer. This top line is the glide slope, so what it's telling us right now, what we need to do is make sure that both of these line up, and the autopilot's doing that right now totally, because we hit nav, approach, and hit altitude twice, it is going to handle everything. We armed the localizer by hitting nav and approach, and we armed the glide slope by hitting altitude twice. If you just hit the altitude button once on this autopilot system, it holds the altitude whatever you're at. It doesn't have anything to do with localizer. It just holds the altitude that you're at, so hitting it twice engages the ILS frequency, more specifically the glide slope. And hitting nav and approach engages the localizer. So you're seeing here everything's lining up. We can begin to lower our speed slightly since we're 7 nautical miles out. And the autopilot is going to begin to lower our altitude automatically here soon enough. There you go. We're going to decrease at about 400 feet per minute, it looks like. Now, again, I cannot see anything out my windows, and I'm not using this map at all. Obviously, it's there, but I'm using only my instruments here to help me fly. There's nothing visible out there. Alright guys, we are about 3 nautical miles away now from the airport, and we see some ground, we see some terrain, and we also have 2 notches of flaps, and we're going to continue to lower our speed here to prepare for the landing. Now we don't have the runway yet, but we are approaching it, and we should see it here soon enough. As you can see, we can see the ground, and we are beginning to see more and more in front of us. Still no runway. We're about 2.5 nautical miles out. Oh, and we see some lights there. Still not the runway though, but those are the lights to the runway. So at about 2 nautical miles, we should see the runway. Yeah, I can see it there, slightly. There it is. I'm gonna keep it on autopilot for now. I'm gonna keep lowering our speed until I got a really good view of that runway. Keep it on the autopilot. Autopilot's doing really well, keeping us on the localizer and glide slope perfectly level. Speed's pretty good. I keep seeing more and more of that runway, which is great. Soon enough here, I'm going to disengage the autopilot and hand fly it in, because now I got the runway in sight. I'm going to go ahead, disengage, and hand fly it in. Alright, there you go, we've landed on runway 22 at LaGuardia. Full IFR flight there, using the VOR to intercept the radio of 225 at LaGuardia. 225 radio of LaGuardia's VOR, which lined us up with runway 22. And then we used the ILS there to stay in the glide slope and localizer to land successfully on the runway in those full IFR conditions. So guys, there you go. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. Have a good day.